This is our cold open. This is good stuff. So, and this is sheer gold, I think, that people have been waiting to hear for 30 years, Chris. Go on.
Hi, everyone. So we were discussing Voyager, and those of you who know, I am not a fan of Voyager. I love the original series. I love TNG. I think DS9 might be the best TV show ever made. Voyager, and this is coming from somebody who since that day in January 1995 has tried to like this show, and I've now come to the conclusion I cannot like this show. So the way I summarize Voyager is it's a show with maybe about a season, maybe a season's half worth of good episodes. And Gary disagreed with me on this, but my view was the rest of it is like watching paint on the wall after it dried. There's two problems with Voyager. Now, one we were just talking about before we went live, which is the fact that it could have been serialized. But the other problem, and I think this was a serious problem that also severely impacted the first 2 years of Enterprise, was the 26 episodes per year. Yeah. It worked with the Next Generation after season 3 because they had creative writers. DS9 was just brilliant. After season 3, I can't think of a single bad episode. It's an exception to the rule. That and the fact that the second half of the final season is serialized in like the most bombastic display of awesomeness that has never been topped. The problem with Voyager is by the time you got to this, you had the concept that should have been serialized that wasn't, but the big problem was trying to fill in 26 episodes per year. Each year they had a few good ideas, but then there was, how do we fill out the rest of this? It was rehashes of TNG, just mind-numbing. Like it's I was saying every year, because I bought the full series sets when they came out back in 2004, so 22 years ago now. I still have not rewatched every episode. Usually about once a year, I decide, okay, I'm going to give Voyager another chance.
They're the same discs that you bought 22 years ago as well. So they would have been, the packaging, I bet, was quite big then, wasn't it?
It was like this plastic, looks like popsicles. But every year I take out one of those seasons and I started where, okay, I'm not going to start from the beginning. I'll start in the middle. And then I'm going to sit through an entire disc. I can't do it. The problem is those filler episodes are horrible. Like I am so bored. I have to turn it off and it's like, I don't want to watch this thing again. So every year since I bought them, so it's like 22 years now, I've done this ritual and it's random seasons throughout. I'm sorry, the filler episodes are just awful. It's literally like if they had AI back then, like, oh crap, we need an episode for this week. Okay, just throw in something. Voyager runs into something. Okay, what? I don't know. They turn into lizards. Okay, whatever. Just
and then they have sex for some reason.
Yeah, Chris, you don't like
this is the
Chris.
Okay, listen. There's 2 points about Voyager. One, that they really should have leaned into being out of resources in a different universe, and like they should have, like by season 3, had a different nacelle and had different technologies.
Year of Hell was your show. Everybody, I have said this since I saw that 2-parter back in 1997. Year of Hell is what the show should have been. It's actually kind of what they did with Enterprise, made it very dystopian, so they did learn their lesson. But Year of Hell, that was your show. I think those 2 episodes are 2 of the best episodes of Star Trek ever made. That is your wasted opportunity.
It should feel when you're watching that, like not just that their resources are being depleted, but also that who they are as people is gradually being sort of challenged and depleted. As well, they have to keep bringing something out from within. The flavor of it and the tone of it, in my opinion, should have been like. And I'm not the world's biggest fan of New Battlestar Galactica. I know the Rabbi adores it.
But love it.
Voyager should have had that tone. It should have had that pressing, that bearing down, to the point where So as it grows and as they reach those sort of pockets of hope, you think you rise and you fall with it, and as it happened, it just felt like a bit of a plod for me.
And interestingly enough, Dan, after Deep Space Nine was over, Ron Moore made an attempt to hop over to Voyager, and for whatever reason, it didn't work out. I think he wrote like 1 episode that was credited to him, and so maybe whatever mindset that made him so brilliant at Deep Space Nine just didn't work for Voyager. But I think absolutely what you just said is true. I think that he took maybe what he personally had wished Voyager could be, and then he transferred that over a couple years later when he created the new Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and the interesting thing about Voyager, like the filler episodes not being great, it was when Red Dwarf wasn't on the air, right? And you always got every in TNG like a rip-off of a Red Dwarf episode from the previous year, right? So I think they needed that, Doug Naylor creativity.
Well, as I say, I'm halfway through Series 1, and Series 1 only has 15 episodes.
Well, that's because it premiered in mid-season.
Yeah, David. Each of all 3 of the 7-season episodes have one season that's short. Season 2 of TNG is short because of the strike, and season 1 of DS9 and Voyager are both short because they premiered in January. But no, the rest of them, outside of that, they're all 26 episodes. Not so much Enterprise. It got cut down as it went towards cancellation, but 26 episodes was the standard. That's basically what they had to make every year. It worked with DS9, but it was a detriment to Voyager, and I think it was even worse. I think the first 2 seasons of Enterprise probably has the worst filler episodes in Star Trek history, then completely changed course in season 3. If you want to watch Enterprise, skip the first 2 seasons, maybe watch the first episode, go to season 3. It's brilliant, and season 4 is one of the best seasons of Star Trek ever made.
Now you've said that, Chris, I feel similarly to you about Voyager. I find it a bit of a chore. At least I did at the time. I think I'd enjoy it a lot more now with like that haze of 90s nostalgia. I'd probably really like it now. I love the most boring, having watched them all, the most boring series I saw of any Star Trek show, proper Star Trek show, was season 2 of Enterprise. It was intolerable.
Yeah.
What happened to season 2? I can't remember.
It's the worst season of real Star Trek. And that season is why there's Les Moonves hated the show. But that season 2 is the reason why Enterprise did not last past 4 seasons, because it improved. I don't think I've ever seen a turnaround in a show like I did with Enterprise in season 3 and 4. But the problem is after that, they lost most of their fans in season 2. Season 2 was so dire. Many fans, it
just was meandering all over the place.
Yeah, what were the episodes of season 2? I can't remember it at all.
Well, they were nondescript.
There was the only one I remember is the one where Trip and that alien princess were trapped on this swamp planet.
No memory.
That's the only No
memory.
The worst thing about the Enterprise that they should never have done, and I think later on, I read that they admitted it was a bad idea. They should have never done that time war.
That was
the temporal
because I think they wanted to say, well, we can't just do a pure prequel. We've got to have some kind of futuristic thing going on. And so they did this time war, which never went anywhere. There was no point to it. If they would have just embraced their premise, which is just the beginnings of Starfleet, and not tried to muck it up with that time war nonsense, it would have been a lot better.
It's just a classic problem of trying to include something for everyone, and you end up pleasing nobody. It's
sorry.
No, that was all.
That was it. So I really didn't like the change in direction in season 3. I didn't like the whole Xindi thing. I love season 4 though. Those 3 parters in season, those 2
I like that.
They were all really fantastic.
I'd recommend revisiting it. I wasn't sure of it.
Yeah.
When I first saw it, I thought it was forced, but I've revisited it a couple times. I think it's when Star Trek first really went dystopian. And one thing that I find fascinating from a character point of view, and this is credit to Scott Bakula, is the complete change in Archer's character in season 3. That alone makes it worth watching, where he went from being, basically Scott Bakula as captain to he's this completely damaged, traumatized character by season 3, and season 4 is him recovering from that. And he does awful things in that season, and you can tell like he's a man that's been pushed to his breaking point.
Yeah, there's one episode where he was like debates with himself about like should he torture this prisoner for information.
I remember that was a good one. That was an excellent one.
Well, you watch, but it's with the whole crew, because you have the Enterprise physically breaking down throughout the season because they're isolated. But throughout the course of the season, I think the most fascinating thing about it is you watch the characters slowly. Every character on that show breaks down. And then I remember watching partway through season 3 when it was originally aired. It was 0304 for those of you who want to know how long ago this was. But I remember watching that. I'm like, okay, so I really like this show. Why did I hate the first 2 seasons? So I went back at this point. I still had them on VHS. So I went back. I watched a couple episodes from season 2, and I'm like, my God, this is a completely different show. Like these are completely different characters. For those of you that are interested in, the study of film, TV, creativity, it's a fascinating case study to watch how Enterprise turned itself around. And it's a shame we didn't get those last 3 seasons, because it would have been the next DS9.
I wanted the secondary hull. Yeah, and the season 5 they're going to put on the secondary hull, weren't they? I really wanted to get to that.
It was going to be the Romulan War, which they had to resolve in 2 episodes, which sucks.
Yeah. Well, anybody who's a fan of like the books, they do the Romulan War, I think, in a series of like 6 books, all by the same author, and so they're all like interconnected. So if you like to read Star Trek books, you can get what probably would have been the last 3 seasons of Enterprise in the book series.
And the original premise of season 1, they wanted Brandon Braga wanted to keep it all on Earth and about the building of Enterprise.
Yeah, no.
Well, the best thing that happened was Manny Cotto took over the show in season 3.
Absolutely.
And to their credit, Rick Berman and Brandon Braga knew they were completely burned out. They never should have taken on Enterprise from the get-go. They should have quit with Voyager, because that show was really struggling near the end. And P.D. Rich, the Xindi arc was too much like That Day in September, the name we can't actually say. That was the idea. And I think at the time, that it was 2003, it was 2 years after the event. I remember thinking that at the time. I'm like, it might be a bit too close, but what Star Trek does at its best, and it did this in the 60s, it also did this in the 90s, was a science fiction take on certain events that affect everyone. And I think 2 decades removed, I think we can view it a lot differently than we would have at the time. Now, obviously, current Star Trek views certain elements from modern day, which is why it's turned into the absolute nightmare it is.
The one thing before we get off this topic, Chris, that I, you were saying about that it's hard to. You're really risking something if you go for 26 episodes, but you don't have any idea where you're going. And so you get a season 2 of Enterprise. The one thing I thought made season 3, the Xindi arc, so successful is you gradually found out, you begin by thinking like the Xindi, the people who attacked her, is just the one species, but you find out that it's like this multi-level thing with like 5 different species.
Yeah, that was great.
And they slowly reveal it. So it's like, you peel back more and more and more over the course of the season. And I thought that was the kind of key to the success of that season, because it really felt like they knew where they were going and what they were doing from the get-go.
And I don't think it would have happened if 24 hadn't premiered 2 years before, because it was the catalyst that moved us away from episodic storytelling. Unfortunately, episodic storytelling is now pretty much gone, but it gave us something new. And I think it's telling that Manny Cotto and a couple of the other producers, after Enterprise was done, actually moved over to 24. And it was season 5.
They revitalized that,
which is absolutely incredible. It was
that's one of the best seasons
of that show.
Yeah. Well, Battlestar Galactica, in terms of like the Day in September allegory, just blew it out the water. It was just so much better. Like, especially, I love the corridor where they had all the pictures of people they're trying to find, which really echoed 9/11. Right? I thought that was very, very.
It felt more timely, didn't it? I think Manny Cotto before he went to Enterprise, he'd done a thing a series that starred Peter Weller called Odyssey 5, which I've never seen. That lasted 1 season. People really loved that show. it was one of those sort of best kept secret sort of shows that gets cancelled because no one watches it, and then people rave about it years later. But I've never seen that. But everything Manny Koto, I think he passed away, didn't he, as well, Koto?
About 2 years ago, and he was not woke. He actually followed me on Twitter several years ago. He eventually shut down his Twitter account before.
That's a sign that he's not woke. If ever you could see
one.
I didn't mean to cut you all off there.
I'll continue with my Voyager episode watch, and I'll report back every week.
There you go.
Okay. Hopefully, what you won't get your ass handed to you like tonight.
Okay.
What could possibly?
You remember this show from the 90s? It was really, it only lasted like 16 episodes. I think called Brimstone, where there was a breakout from hell, right? And there was you never saw it?
I remember the name.
Okay, so there was a breakout from hell of 113 of the most evil souls ever, right? And they have a cop in hell who murdered the person who raped and murdered his wife or something. And he was sent by the devil to track each one down a week, right? That was a great show. Julian Glover, I think.
Brilliant. It starred that guy. It starred Michelle Pfeiffer's husband. He's quite a little fellow he looks like he can't open his eyes properly. He's always squinting, but he did look kind of demonic. So it was a great little show, but you're quite right. And nobody else liked it apart from you and I, by the sounds of it. Right?
When the fan base,
so the pair of us, we are the Brimstone fan. Yeah, it was a more watchable version of something like Millennium with Lance Henriksen, which I also quite liked, but was also it was a bit plodding as well, a 90s plodder. So obviously, rest in peace, Manny Koto. You say he followed you on Twitter or X, Chris?
Oh yeah, no, I'm just saying. Yeah, he. I actually a number of them used to follow me on Twitter back in the early days because on top of going after a British show, which we do not talk about on this show, #banned. I used to. I was simultaneously beating the hell out of Discovery in its early years, and actually a few of them followed me because they were not fans of this show. That's why they all went to work on the Orville.
Very well.
It's amazing. Discovery really had me for the first 9 episodes. I really kind of enjoyed it. I liked what's his name, the guy from The Office as Harry Mudd. I think essentially they ran out of who was it? They got the original showrunner who got kicked out by
Brian Fuller.
Yeah, you could tell when they ran out of Brian Fuller's ideas. Right? It was like. They had like a Christmas break where they went to the cliffhanger. They were in the mirror universe, and then it just all fell apart.
He was like him or not, he's another one very idiosyncratic program maker. Generally speaking, I'm not sort of in line with a lot of his tastes, but my God, is he creative? And I'd rather somebody like that who brings it 150% and believes in everything they're doing than someone who treads water, who has this kind of that'll do mentality. And just takes the money and runs, thinking it's a nice cushy number to keep them relevant for 10, 15 years, like a certain Mr. Alex Kurtzman. There should be PSAs warning us against employing such people, Chris. But as it is, there isn't. We do have other PSAs though, which happily advise us about other areas of our life with which to take caution. Obviously, it's Valentine's Day today, everybody, as of time of recording.
Yay!
And so in honor of that, Chris, you've come up with something rather special for the lovers out there.
Hello, everyone. Happy Valentine's Day from Canada. Today, we're going to celebrate Valentine's Day, Canadian style, which will be a sick, twisted, sad tale, which will leave everybody very sad by the end of it. This is the one. So her name is actually Linda. I was saying, I hope you're happy, Becky. But no, her name is Linda. So we're going to call this one, I hope you're happy, Linda. And what's going to happen to Linda, or what is Linda responsible for? This could also be a case of I'm just presenting you with a happy love story of forgiveness, where everything works out at the end and we're all friends. Yeah. Who knows? I guess we'll find out. So roll it, Dan.
Who knows? Oh no.
It's not like I'm going out and hooking up with other guys.
Oh dear.
Oh no.
Fish and chips? Oh dear.
Not her fault.
Happy Valentine's Day from Canada, everyone. We're the happiest country on earth. I hope you all have a blessed day.
I want to know what they were going to have for dinner.
Well, nothing now.
But you know what? You can't hear that message enough. You really can't. Seriously.
Yeah, I know it is a serious. And as I said last week, 2 to 3 times the UK drink drive limit you can be impaired by if you start looking at your mobile phone or using your mobile phone while driving. And we have some of the highest drink drive tolerances limits in the world. So that just goes to the fact that 2 to 3 times, by the way, is falling over drunk. That's how impaired you are. When so studies have shown by the Royal Society for the Prevention of Accidents, when you're using a mobile phone whilst driving.
So I had to go back and check what she'd. I had to go back and check what she typed there. I thought it said I'm shaved. I thought, wow. Okay, it actually says I'm sorry, but my eyesight needs checking. Okay,
yeah, it's taking it down a completely different alley. But yeah, so just remember, please, just don't use your phone whilst driving.
And just to drive it home, yeah. So all these ads. So next week we're going to go back to a Final Destination one. Oh, I've got a fun one planned. But yeah, this is once again, folks. This is what you risk when you watch TV in Canada, because you never know when one of these are going to pop up. Something terrible could happen at any time, such as Canada.
Just like the nice old man who's having a lovely day, and everything's going well for him, and then he suddenly decides to take some tablets. A bit like that, Chris.
Yeah, well, he had a bad day. Well, nobody has a good day in Canada. That's a whole other. That's a whole lot of. That's a whole separate live stream. But yes, nobody has had a good day in Canada in about 10 years. But that's a story for another time, because if you got me on that, then I would be yelling about different things throughout the entire live stream. And we're not here to yell about the state of the dumpster fire that is my country. We're here to yell about something else. Also, all hail Plumpy.
Well, there has been a big scandal in the Winter Olympics because I believe some people have accused the Canadians of cheating in the curling, which is absolutely outrageous.
Never.
David,
I don't think they have.
I'll tell you what I know about that. Nothing. I have not watched the Olympics since I was forced to watch a hockey game back in like 2002. I could care less about the Olympics. When one hates one's country, as my entire country does, one finds itself somewhat difficult to cheer for said country. That, and I just find it's boring. Although there was that ski lady who I believe it was American who had a bad accident. I saw that clip.
Yeah.
That's about
really?
it.
Yeah, that was awful.
No idea.
But we love it in our house because we like the skeleton bob whilst front down on a little sort of tea tray going all around this sort of like wall of this ice tunnel, which is head first at around about 80 miles an hour. That's fantastic viewing.
Oh, the bobsled?
Yeah, the skeleton bob with absolutely no protection whatsoever, just a helmet, and they're just whizzing around this sort of steep ice tunnel with steep banks. It's thrilling. Absolutely taking your life in your hand.
I may need a translator for all this sporting talk, everybody, but makes sense. Makes sense of the rest. I'll go back after and see if anybody can help me sort of work it out what's been said.